Pinocchio. In a small, cluttered wood-carving shop in a quiet Italian village where the smell of sawdust and varnish filled the air and wood shavings covered the floor like golden snow, there lived an elderly woodcarver named Geppetto who had spent his entire life creating beautiful things from pieces of timber. Toys and furniture and decorative objects that brought joy to others but could never quite fill the emptiness in his own heart. Geppetto was a kind, gentle man with white hair and a white beard and eyes that held both deep loneliness and persistent hope, living alone with only his pet cat Figaro and his goldfish Cleo for company, wishing with quiet desperation for a child to love and care for, someone to fill his modest home with laughter and purpose and the particular kind of meaning that comes from having someone who needs you and calls you father. One evening, working late by lamplight in his workshop while the village slept around him, Geppetto carved a puppet from a piece of pine wood, not just any puppet, but a special one, crafted with extraordinary care and attention to detail. He gave the wooden boy a charming face with painted features, jointed limbs that moved smoothly, and clothes sewn with meticulous precision. As he worked, Geppetto found himself talking to the puppet as if it were already alive, telling it stories about the son he wished he had, the adventures they would have together, the love and guidance he would provide. When the puppet was finally complete, Geppetto looked at his creation with such tender affection that tears gathered in his old eyes. "I shall call you Pinocchio," he said softly, holding the wooden puppet with the gentleness reserved for precious, fragile things. "If you were real, you would be my son, and I would be the happiest father in the world." He made a wish on the evening star shining bright through his workshop window, a genuine, heartfelt wish spoken with the pure sincerity of someone who has been lonely for far too long, and then he went to bed, carrying Pinocchio with him and placing the puppet carefully on the bedside table as if it were already the child he longed for. That night, magic happened. The Blue Fairy, a benevolent celestial being who rewards genuine goodness and answers sincere wishes, appeared in Geppetto's workshop in a shimmer of starlight and compassion. She looked at the wooden puppet with its carefully painted features and saw not just Geppetto's craftsmanship but the love that had gone into every carved detail, every sewn stitch, every hopeful thought. With a touch of her wand and words spoken with the authority of someone who understands the deepest truths about transformation and becoming, she brought Pinocchio to life. "Little puppet made of pine, wake," the Blue Fairy commanded, and Pinocchio's wooden eyes blinked open with consciousness and wonder. "The gift of life is yours. But you are not yet a real boy. Prove yourself brave, truthful, and unselfish, and one day you will be flesh and blood instead of wood and paint. You must learn to choose right from wrong, to tell the truth even when lying is easier, to be honest in all your dealings with others. Show me you are worthy, and the magic will complete itself. You will become truly real." She appointed Jiminy Cricket, a small, dapper cricket with a conscience as reliable as clockwork and a voice of reason that had seen much of the world and understood its temptations, to serve as Pinocchio's official conscience, to guide him toward good choices and away from bad ones, to be the internal voice of wisdom that all of us need but don't always listen to as carefully as we should. When Geppetto woke the next morning and discovered that his wooden puppet could walk and talk and think and feel, his joy was so profound and overwhelming that he wept openly, embracing Pinocchio with all the love he had been storing up for years with no one to give it to. "My son," he exclaimed. "You're alive. You're really alive. This is the happiest day of my long life." He immediately made plans for Pinocchio's future. The boy would go to school, would learn and grow, would become educated and wise, would have all the opportunities Geppetto himself never had. But Pinocchio, though brought to life with magic and good intentions, was still very new to being alive, very inexperienced with the complicated business of making choices, and very susceptible to the kinds of temptations that appeal to those who don't yet understand consequences. On his very first day, on his way to school with his new books and his excited heart and Jiminy Cricket perched on his shoulder offering guidance, Pinocchio encountered two of the most dangerous types of people a naive, inexperienced child can meet. Honest John the Fox and his partner Gideon the Cat, a pair of con artists who specialized in exploiting the innocent for profit. Why waste time in school? Honest John asked with smooth, persuasive charm, his voice dripping with false friendliness and carefully calculated manipulation. "A talented puppet like you belongs on the stage. Fame and fortune await. I can make you a star in Stromboli's puppet theater. Crowds will cheer for you, gold coins will rain down, you'll be famous and wealthy beyond your wildest dreams. School is for ordinary children. You, my boy, are extraordinary. The words were lies wrapped in enough truth to be convincing. Pinocchio was indeed talented and extraordinary, but not in the way honest John meant. Pinocchio, flattered by the attention and excited by the promise of easy glory without the hard work of learning, made his first terrible choice. He abandoned the path to school, ignored Jiminy Cricket's increasingly desperate warnings, and followed the con artists to Stromboli's theatre, trading his father's hopes and his own future for the shallow promise of immediate fame. At first, the theatre seemed wonderful. Pinocchio performed on stage, manipulating his wooden body in ways that amazed audiences, receiving applause and attention that felt intoxicating to someone who had been alive for less than a day. But when the performance ended and Pinocchio tried to go home to Geppetto, Stromboli revealed his true nature: cruel, greedy, utterly without compassion. He locked Pinocchio in a cage, declaring that the puppet was now his property, a valuable asset to be exploited until he wore out or broke, and then discarded without a second thought. "You will perform for me every night and make me rich," Stromboli declared, his voice filled with menacing certainty. "And when you grow old and can no longer dance, I will use you for firewood. You are mine now, puppet." Trapped in the cage, alone except for Jiminy Cricket, who had followed faithfully despite being ignored, Pinocchio finally understood the consequences of his choices. He had believed honest John's lies instead of trusting his father's wisdom. He had chosen the easy, exciting path instead of the difficult, worthwhile one. He had been vain and foolish and naive, and now he was paying a terrible price. When the blue fairy appeared and asked why he wasn't in school as he was supposed to be, Pinocchio, frightened and ashamed, made another critical mistake. He lied. "I was on my way to school when I was kidnapped by terrible men," Pinocchio said, the lie coming easily because admitting the truth felt too humiliating, too painful, too revealing of his own poor judgment and foolish choices. And as he spoke the lie, something extraordinary and terrible happened. His wooden nose began to grow, stretching longer and longer with each dishonest word, becoming a visible, undeniable, impossible to hide manifestation of his dishonesty. The blue fairy watched calmly, neither angry nor surprised, understanding that this was a necessary lesson. "A lie keeps growing and growing until it's as plain as the nose on your face," she said gently but firmly, letting the physical consequence of dishonesty make its point more effectively than any lecture could. The elongated nose made lying impossible to conceal, turned dishonesty into something visible and awkward and shameful, demonstrated in the most direct way imaginable that lies have consequences that affect not just others but yourself. Pinocchio, mortified by his growing nose and genuinely remorseful for his dishonesty, confessed the truth, all of it, including his own poor choices and his willing participation in his own troubles. The blue fairy, seeing genuine remorse and the beginning of real understanding, freed him from the cage and gave him another chance, though she warned him seriously that chances were precious and finite, that everyone deserves opportunities to learn from mistakes, but nobody deserves infinite opportunities to make the same mistakes repeatedly. Pinocchio promised to go straight home to Geppetto and then to school, promised to be good and honest and to listen to Jiminy Cricket's guidance. But on his way home, he encountered honest John again. Because people who make a living exploiting others are persistent, and they know that someone who has been fooled once is likely to be fooled again if you find the right approach. This time, honest John told Pinocchio about Pleasure Island, a magical place where boys could do whatever they wanted with no rules, no school, no work, no consequences, nothing but endless fun and games and self-indulgence forever. It was a lie, of course, a trap designed to capture foolish boys and transform them into donkeys to be sold for labor. But Pinocchio, still naive despite his recent experience, still susceptible to promises of easy pleasure without effort, made the terrible choice to go. Pleasure Island was wonderful at first, exactly as promised. Games and food and fun with no adults telling you what to do, no responsibilities, no consequences, just pleasure and indulgence and immediate gratification. But gradually, terribly, the boys who gave themselves over completely to thoughtless self-indulgence began transforming into donkeys, losing their human forms and their human voices, becoming beasts of burden to be sold and exploited, victims of their own choices to reject responsibility and embrace only pleasure. Pinocchio and his new friend Lampwick, a rough, confident boy who represented everything Pinocchio might become if he continued making poor choices, were playing pool and smoking cigars and generally behaving with complete disregard for any kind of wisdom or restraint when Lampwick began sprouting donkey ears and a tail. In moments of pure horror, Pinocchio watched his friend transform completely into a donkey, braying helplessly, all his human intelligence and potential lost to the consequences of his choices. Pinocchio, terrified that he would suffer the same fate, he had already sprouted ears and a tail, fled Pleasure Island with Jiminy Cricket, escaping just barely before his own transformation became complete. He ran all the way home to Geppetto, desperate to confess everything, to apologize for his foolishness, to finally, truly commit to being the son his father deserved rather than the foolish puppet he had been. But when he arrived home, the workshop was empty. Geppetto was gone, and a dove brought terrible news. Geppetto had gone searching for Pinocchio, heartbroken and desperate to find his son, and had been swallowed by Monstro the whale, a massive creature who lived in the deepest parts of the ocean, virtually impossible to find and even more impossible to escape from once swallowed. This news transformed Pinocchio completely. For the first time since coming to life, he thought not about himself but about someone else, about Geppetto, about his father's suffering, about the consequences his selfishness had inflicted on someone who had only ever loved him. For the first time, he chose to do something difficult and dangerous not because it would benefit him but because it was right, because someone he loved needed him, because being brave and truthful and unselfish meant acting on those values even when, especially when, it was hard and frightening to do so. Pinocchio dove into the ocean and searched for Monstro, finally allowing himself to be swallowed so he could reach his father inside the whale's enormous belly. The reunion was emotional and profound, Geppetto weeping with joy at seeing his son alive, Pinocchio weeping with remorse for all the pain he'd caused, both of them understanding that love and forgiveness are more powerful than any mistake, however foolish. But they were still trapped inside the whale, and Pinocchio, demonstrating the courage and cleverness that come from genuinely caring about someone other than yourself, devised a plan. He built a fire that created so much smoke that Monstro sneezed them out in a tremendous explosion of water and whale spittle, sending them flying toward shore but also triggering Monstro's rage. The whale pursued them with murderous intent, and Pinocchio used every bit of his wooden strength and newfound courage to protect Geppetto, pulling his father toward shore even as Monstro's massive jaws crashed down around them. They reached the beach, but Pinocchio was battered and broken in the process, his wooden body damaged beyond Geppetto's ability to repair, lying still and lifeless on the shore while Geppetto wept over him, certain he had lost his son just when he had finally gotten him back. But the blue fairy had been watching. She had seen Pinocchio's transformation from a selfish, dishonest puppet into someone genuinely brave, truthful, and unselfish. Not perfect, but changed in ways that mattered. She had seen him risk everything to save his father, had seen him finally embody the values she had challenged him to learn. And she decided that he had earned the gift he had been promised. With a touch of magic and a shimmer of starlight, she transformed Pinocchio from a wooden puppet into a real boy, flesh and blood, truly alive, capable of growing and changing and living a full human life. When Pinocchio woke in his own bed in Geppetto's cottage, no longer wooden but genuinely, completely real, his first words were not about himself but about his father. "Father, are you all right? I was so worried about you." Geppetto's joy was beyond words. His son was alive, was real, was safe, and most importantly had become someone worthy of the love Geppetto had always been ready to give. They embraced, and Jiminy Cricket, who had guided Pinocchio through every terrible choice and every hard lesson, received his own reward from the Blue Fairy. A solid gold badge proclaiming him an official conscience, recognition for faithful service and persistent wisdom even when ignored. Pinocchio grew up as a real boy in Geppetto's care, never forgetting the lessons he had learned as a wooden puppet. He remembered how lies made his nose grow, how dishonesty created consequences impossible to hide. He remembered how easy it was to be led astray by people who promised easy pleasures instead of earned rewards. He remembered how selfishness and thoughtlessness had hurt the person who loved him most. And he remembered how becoming brave, truthful, and unselfish, actually living those values rather than just claiming them, had transformed him from wood into flesh, from puppet into person, from someone who merely existed into someone truly alive. He told his story to other children, sharing the hard-won wisdom that honesty matters not because some external authority demands it, but because dishonesty traps you, limits you, turns you into something less than you could be. Lies grow until they're impossible to hide. Easy pleasures without effort or responsibility transform you into something less than human. Selfishness keeps you wooden, keeps you from becoming real in the ways that truly matter. But when you choose honesty even when lying is easier, when you choose responsibility even when self-indulgence is more appealing, when you choose to care about others even when caring is difficult and frightening, that's when you become real. That's when transformation happens. That's when the magic works.